Welcome to Kinship Connects, a podcast from SDA Kinship, sharing our stories and our journeys. My name is Floyd Punitz, and today it's my privilege to speak with Dr. Samuel Peng. We invite you to join us as we navigate his journey together. And last week, if you were with us, or the last podcast, you heard a little bit about Dr. Peng's childhood and his growing up and just his history. And today we're going to delve a little bit more into what he's currently doing and his current profession. I like to tease and say he is getting more people pregnant than anybody I know in the world. But that is maybe a little bit of an exaggeration. But I did want to also, before we get started here, congratulate him. I saw that he won the 2022 Arnold P. Gold Foundation Humanism and Medicine Award for practicing physician. And so hopefully he can tell us a little bit more about what all led up to him getting this award. And just recapping a little bit. You grew up in Singapore, you moved to Canada at the age of 16. You're the son of an Adventist pastor. And soon after you left the nest of home, you found out about Kinship and joined and have been a staunch supporter of SDA Kinship through the years. You did your medical school, and I'm going to stop there and let you continue about where you did your medical school and where that led you on the path to where you are today.
Sure. Thank you, Floyd. So when we moved from Singapore, we settled in Vancouver, where my father became the pastor of the Vancouver Chinese Seventh-day Adventist Church, and he was a pastor there for probably over 20 years. And I had to be extremely closeted while I was there. And of course, this is going to blow it all out of the water. I moved.
You are out, right?
Say again? You
are out, right?
I am out. Yes.
Okay, so this won't be a total surprise to everybody.
No, everybody knows now. So I attended medical school at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, and after college and medical school, I moved to Toronto, where I did a rotating internship followed by a residency in obstetrics and gynecology. And following that, I moved to Los Angeles, where I did some graduate work in reproductive endocrinology at UCLA. And that the purpose of that was to subspecialize in a field of medicine called reproductive medicine. This was in the late 80s. And at the time, the field was just starting with this process called in vitro fertilization, IVF. The first IVF baby was conceived and born in England. She was born in July of 1978. Her name was Louise Brown. She just turned 44 years old a few months ago.
Wow.
And so IVF came to the US in the early 80s. And I learned about it during my residency, and this is what I wanted to do. And so I searched for a place for graduate training in this field, and was successful in getting a position at UCLA to do my fellowship in reproductive endocrinology. And after my training there, I spent about 3 years at Loma Linda University Medical School as faculty, and then found that I wasn't too comfortable there because I had to be closeted again.
Wow, okay.
And so I decided that I needed to move, and so I found a position here in Boston. I moved here in 1993 and have been here now for over 29 years.
Okay. Now, did Loma Linda have any IVF related?
They did. They
Okay.
had a very, very small IVF program.
Okay.
And that was, I guess, the other reason I needed a practice with a busier IVF
Mhm.
program.
Mm-hmm.
So there were multiple reasons that I ended up leaving Loma Linda after 3 years, but that was one of them.
Okay.
So what I do is in vitro fertilization. That's my specialty. And after a few years here, I became the director of what we call the third-party reproduction program. The third-party reproduction program, in a nutshell, is where with IVF, we use a third party, either an egg donor or a gestational surrogate, to help the intended parents have children.
Okay.
So I became involved with third-party reproduction at our practice. We treated lesbian women primarily with donor sperm. And in 1998 was the first time I was approached by a gay male couple who wanted to have a family. And so the elements of what they needed was what I did every day: donor egg, gestational surrogacy. We put two of those together for this male couple, created embryos with donor eggs, sperm from each of the men, embryos transferred into a gestational surrogate, and they ended up, long story short, with 3 children from that process.
Wow. Wow.
2 of their children have already graduated college.
So this was very uncommon in 1998, right?
I was probably
for males,
one of the earliest physicians in the US and the world to do this for gay men.
Wow. Wonderful.
So I am considered a pioneer in providing reproductive care to the LGBT community.
Cool.
So that was in 1998, and then I went on to treat dozens and dozens and dozens of gay male couples. And at this point in time, I have a very busy practice with a lot of gay men coming to see me. There's some weeks where I will see 3 gay male couples in the same week. Not every week, but it's just something that I do a lot of now. Right. But it is like over 20 years later. Now, in the early days, that was not the case. So my first gay male couple was in 1998, and it was probably another 2 or 3 years before I treated the second gay couple, and maybe another year before I treated the third gay couple. And then it started taking off after 2004, because that is when marriage equality came to Massachusetts. And with marriage equality, gay men started getting married, and after they started getting married, they settled into
the family routine,
and they decided that they wanted to have families, and that's when it really started taking off. And so that sort of illustrates how important marriage is to members of the LGBTQ community, because that provides them with this stability and the sense that now we're a stable family, we can have children and build a family. Right. So do you also have heterosexual clients or patients? Oh, yes, absolutely. In fact, the vast majority of my patients are heterosexual infertile couples. Couples who can't have children on their own. Correct. And that has always been the case. Right. But I started offering care to members of the LGBT community way back in the 90s, and that portion of my practice has gradually increased.
Yeah.
But it is still not the majority of my practice.
Okay.
It is a
Okay.
significant part of my practice,
Uh-huh.
but it's still a minority of my practice.
Okay. But you were one of the first physicians who was comfortable and was willing to work with the rainbow community. So
Yes,
in the
yes.
US,
In
yeah.
fact, the after I was first approached by the first gay male couple,
Mhm.
one of my physician colleagues heard about it, and he was very upset. And he
Yeah.
sent out an email, and the subject line of his email, this was in 1998, was a moral dilemma. And
Wow.
in this email, he said, it has come to my attention that, Dr. Pang is planning to treat this gay male couple, and stated all of his objections.
Uh-huh.
And so after that, I said, okay, let's have a meeting. So we called a meeting with everybody in the practice, not just
Mhm.
physicians, but the nurses, the embryologists, everybody.
Right.
And we talked about this. I said, I can't do this by myself. I
Mhm.
need the cooperation of everybody in the
Sure.
practice if I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And it was quite remarkable that everybody was supportive of me, and said, we don't have a problem with it. And so it turned out that this physician was outnumbered, 99-1, basically.
Yeah.
And he basically said, okay, well, if everybody is supportive of this, then you can go ahead and do it.
Hmm.
But I'm not going to be involved in what you do. And I
Okay.
said, fine, you
Yeah.
don't have to be.
Right.
Um, But that just reflects that even in a liberal state like Massachusetts at the time,
Yeah.
there were people who felt that this was new territory and it
Mhm.
wasn't something that we should be doing. One of the objections is that as physicians, we are treating people with disease,
Mhm.
and a gay couple don't have a disease, so why are we
Right.
treating them with medicine for a condition where they don't have an illness?
I see. Yeah. So that's a new twist to the
Right,
way people have looked at it traditionally.
right.
Yeah. I
Um,
I have
so
a layman's question.
sure.
Maybe someone else has that same thing. Okay, you said so you have a male couple, two guys come to you, both you take sperm from both of them, and that gets with an egg from a
Eggs.
donor. So, but you don't know which sperm is the actual one that's going
No,
to
we do.
fertilize the egg. Oh, you do.
So the eggs that we get from the egg donor, we divide into two cohorts. We inseminate one cohort of eggs with sperm from one of the men,
Okay.
the other cohort with sperm from the other men. So we have two cohorts of embryos, and we know exactly which embryo came from the sperm of which man.
Ah, okay. So when the baby is born,
We know exactly who the genetic father is.
who the genetic father is, but they're both considered to be the parents of that
Yes.
child.
So
Okay.
that's where the lawyers take over.
Okay.
So the
Okay.
lawyers will put together over a dozen different legal documents,
Mm-hmm.
such that when the baby is born to the surrogate, the names of the two fathers go directly onto the birth certificate.
Okay. Good.
So let me say that was not always the case. When we first started this in 1998, the first 2 or 3 gay male couples, what ended up happening was the name of the surrogate and her husband went onto the birth certificate. Then they had to give the baby up for adoption.
Oh,
And then
wow.
the intended fathers had to adopt the baby. There was a
Uh-huh.
6-month waiting period before they were legally the adopted parents, even though they were the genetic parents.
Yeah.
And so in 2000 and 2004 or thereabouts with marriage equality. What the lawyers did was they would petition the court to get what's known as a pre-birth order.
Okay.
And with the pre-birth order from the judge saying, with my affidavit saying that these embryos came from the sperm of the intended fathers and the eggs from a non-identified egg donor.
Okay.
And the surrogate is simply carrying the pregnancy. And with that, all these legal documents that the lawyers put together, it's presented to the court, and the court will issue an order called a pre-birth order, so that at the time the baby is born, the names of the intended fathers go directly onto the birth certificate.
Wow. Good. Okay.
And so that worked out for our son as well, who is 17 years old today. He was
Awesome.
actually the second baby born to a surrogate in Massachusetts, where we were able to get a pre-birth order.
Ah, great.
Our names went directly onto the birth certificate as his parents.
Awesome. Yeah. Wow.
He was born in 2005.
So that cuts out a lot of the legal, what could go wrong in that step of the process or whatever.
Correct.
So yeah. Wow. And is that in all 50 states the way?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There are actually a handful of states where surrogacy is illegal.
Oh, okay.
And then there are states where there's no law, and so it's a case-by-case basis. And then there are states that are where there's no law, but there's a lot of precedents. Like Massachusetts, surrogacy has been going on for over 20 years. And so it's a very well-established process. And, hundreds of surrogacy cycles take place here or have taken place.
Right.
And so it's very well established. So for my patients who are using a surrogate to have children, the lawyers take care of all of these legal aspects. And one of the multiple things that they have to take care of is to ensure that the surrogate lives and is giving birth in a state where surrogacy is legal, and where the legal documents will carry some weight in the courts, and they can get a pre-birth order for their child.
So they have to have residency in that state, not just give birth in that state.
It actually they need to give birth in the state. So for many years, for example, surrogacy was illegal in New York. It's no longer illegal in New York because of a law that was passed. But for years, it was illegal in New York. And I had a patient where his sister was his surrogate, but his sister lived in New York. And so they made sure that in the last month of a pregnancy, she would come and live in Massachusetts, so she would actually deliver in Massachusetts.
Okay. Good. Wow. So how many people have you gotten pregnant in your career?
I've lost count. It would be thousands. But, to your point, there's a funny story that I tell people. Actually, when I was at Loma Linda, I would attend the church there. And of course, I was a young, eligible bachelor. I was closeted, and nobody knew I was gay.
Right.
And of course, all the young women would try and meet me and think that, they could
a future there.
Have a future here with me. There was one occasion when a young woman and her mother were talking to me, and they asked, so what kind of doctor are you? What do you do? And I said, oh, I get women pregnant. And that was enough for the mother to say, okay, dear, let's go now.
That was a good way of solving that problem.
That was a good way of solving that problem. And that was a way of keeping the women away from me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the climate in the U.S. shifts, the political climate, the Roe versus Wade and all those kinds of things, how does that affect your practice or this process that, for gay people, for LGBT people to actually have children?
Well, there are many parts to that question.
Yeah.
Of course, we have a Supreme Court that is heavily conservative now. We don't know what could happen to marriage equality. That is under threat. As far as the Hobbs case, which overturned Roe v. Wade, that is not only a threat to reproductive freedom, but potentially to IVF in certain states.
Okay.
Because it is now left up to the states to define their laws. If a state writes the law stating that life begins at conception, that would mean that an embryo that has not even been transferred into the uterus of a woman is considered a person.
Wow. So like before, when you said the embryo was split and then each partner sperm, whatever, that would already be too viable.
So we have lots of embryos that we create.
Yeah.
And if personhood status is given to these embryos, it becomes a big problem.
Wow.
And that could potentially happen in some states, not all states. Thankfully, in Massachusetts, that is not likely to happen, but certainly in some of the Midwest and southern states, that could potentially happen.
Yeah.
And it would be a threat to IVF practice there.
Do you think the Supreme Court thinks about that when they make their consideration? No. Wow. Yeah. So, yeah, interesting.
But it does have it. That decision has a lot of unintended ripple effects.
Yeah. Exactly.
And my personal biggest fear is the undoing of marriage equality.
Sure.
Because does that mean that my marriage of almost 20 years becomes annulled?
Right. Yeah. And those are real concerns that I think, we can't dismiss as, oh, that will never happen. I think those are actual things that we need to keep in our minds, that, the rights and privileges we have today could be gone tomorrow.
Right.
So yeah. Wow.
So getting back to your question at the beginning of our discussion about the award that I'm about to get.
Exactly.
The Arnold P. Gold Humanism in Medicine Award is an award to physicians who have practicing physicians who demonstrated empathy, compassion in their practice. It is awarded to the American Society for Reproductive Medicine, is our professional society. And each year since 2014, it has selected one physician to award this to at our annual scientific congress and expo. This year, that event is in Anaheim, California. And every year at that event, the opening event is the President's Gala, and that is where the awards are given. So in June this year, I was notified that I had been nominated for this award, which shocked me. They asked for my, resume and CV,
Yeah.
which I submitted to them, and didn't think much more of that. Didn't hear from them for, 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was notified in August that of all the nominees, the ASRM board and committee had selected me to get this award this year, and I was stunned,
Mm.
but also very humbled and
Yeah.
honored by this. It's a big deal.
Yes. Yeah.
My husband is going to be attending this
Oh,
President's
great.
Gala with me.
Cool.
So it's happening October 23rd in Anaheim, California.
Okay, so just around the corner. Well, my congratulations from Kinship and all your friends. Those who have known you for even a little bit of time know that, you are the person. You're very worthy, and it fits perfectly for you. So yeah, congratulations. This is
Thank you very much.
very, very, very good. Very, very good. So yeah.
I'm still in shock, but letting it settle in.
No. Enjoy the limelight and the accolades. You've deserved it. You deserve it. You've earned it. So yeah. No, that's
Thank
great.
you. I appreciate that.
Be a very fun time there in Anaheim. Yeah. People don't like to talk about money because money is always an uncomfortable thing. But I just wanted to touch briefly. I know that something like this is not a cheap procedure, and just ballpark. And does a personal insurance cover any part of this process, or what
Right.
would someone be looking at if they were wanting to go down this road typically?
Right. So unfortunately, insurance plans currently do not cover this treatment for gay men
Okay.
because the insurance model is still we're paying for treatment of disease.
Right. Yeah.
And given the two gay men who are doing this do not have any disease, and
Mhm.
we are not prepared to say that being gay is a disease,
Right.
they don't qualify for health insurance that pays for treatment of disease. There are more and more employers, especially in the tech world, that will provide some amount of money to their employees to pay for family building, adoption, surrogacy, whatever else. But it's not through health insurance.
Okay.
It's through their employee benefits through their HR.
Right. Okay.
So some of the large tech companies like Meta, Google, whatever, have some of these benefits.
Sure.
And others, more and more companies are offering these benefits.
Yeah.
And it is up to the LGBT employees to lobby their HR people to provide these benefits, employee benefits.
Right.
But coming back to your original question, no, it does not. It is not paid for by health insurance plans because it just doesn't fall into that umbrella. And historically, people actually have to pay for all the treatment themselves. So the cost of doing the IVF and paying for an egg donor is in the realm of around $30,000-$40,000.
Okay.
But the majority of the cost actually is associated with the surrogacy process, because surrogates are compensated anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 for carrying a pregnancy. And then there are all the legal fees that you
Okay.
pay the lawyers
Right.
to
Right.
put together the over a dozen legal documents to make sure that the baby is your baby after
Yeah.
birth.
Right.
So if you put together the medical costs, the cost of the egg donor, the cost of the surrogacy, and the legal costs, it adds up to $100,000 or more.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
medical cost is just a small fraction of the cost.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. It's all the other safeguards that need to be done for the legality and care of the
Correct.
mother. Yeah. 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 Exactly. Well, cool. Cool. Have and I don't think you're going to be able to answer this question, and that's okay. But are there any famous people that we know of that you've worked on or treated?
I can't say.
Thank you. Good answer. Good answer. But I had to ask it.
Right. Of course, with HIPAA,
Yeah, exactly.
I can't say, but what I can say is that there are a lot of celebrities who have done this,
Yeah.
Mostly in California.
Right, right, right. And that actually leads me to my final question is if someone listening would be interested in pursuing or just getting more information on this process, could they get in touch with you, or what would be a good resource for them to
Absolutely.
check
They
out
can
more
get in
information?
touch with me. They can find me if they Google me.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
13-year-old son Googled me and said, "Pa, you're famous." But yes, I'm easily found on Google.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, we always knew you were famous. That's nothing new for us. But yeah, and listeners can always email me as well or email Kinship, and we can pass that information on to you
right.
if someone would like that. Yeah, yeah.
If you want just a private conversation, then you can contact me privately. But if you want to schedule an appointment with me to talk about, the medical aspects of how to do this,
Right.
you can contact and schedule an appointment with me through my practice, Boston
Through your
IVF.
practice. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
they would be happy to schedule an appointment. Because of the COVID pandemic, I'm now doing all of my consultations virtually.
Oh,
So
okay.
I have patients who, contact me. They live out of state, and we can do the virtual
Right.
consultations.
Right. Cool. Cool. Well, this has been very fascinating. I find it, totally interesting, and just yeah, very happy that you're doing this and that you're a part of Kinship. So it's kind of
Now,
a
thank you very much. But before I end, I don't want to leave out the other letters of the alphabet.
yeah,
I
yeah,
have also been
exactly.
treating a lot of lesbians. Most of them are able to conceive just with donor sperm insemination.
Okay.
However, there are many who choose to do what I refer to as reciprocal IVF, where one of them provides the eggs, we create the embryos, and the other carries the pregnancy.
Okay.
So historically, I've been treating lesbians since the 90s, but it was in 2007 when I was first approached by a lesbian couple who did not have infertility, had not tried to get pregnant with donor sperm, but came specifically because they said, "We want to use her eggs and I'm going to carry the pregnancy."
Wow.
And
Yeah.
that again was something new because we are treating a couple who do not have infertility or an illness. It was totally a choice, a social choice,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
family choice.
Okay.
And they chose to do that because then both women would feel that connection to the child, one being the genetic mother and one being the gestational mother.
Wow.
And then it was in 2012, which is 10 years ago now, that I was first approached by transgender people who wanted to do both fertility preservation before they transition, as well as transgender people who were married and in relationships who wanted to have children. And so I have treated transgender men who are married to a cisgender woman. We used eggs from the transgender men, created embryos, and his wife carried the pregnancy.
Okay.
And then I have also had transgender men who chose to carry the pregnancy themselves as a man. I've treated 2 of those in the last 10 years.
Okay.
So the other alphabets of the LGBTQ are also people that I've been treating with reproductive medicine.
Right.
I wanted to mention that so that we don't forget them.
Yeah, no, thank you. Very important that our families come in all different variations, and you know, a family is a beautiful thing, and it's wonderful that you are there to help people create and realize their dreams and their hopes, regardless of where they find themselves in the alphabet. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I often feel like Queen Esther in the Bible. If you remember that story where she was at the right place in the right time.
Yeah.
And I often feel like I'm in the right place at the right time to provide these services to members of the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. Yeah, any final words about anything?
No, but I was going to talk to you offline, but
Okay. Cool. So
there is a video that I can share that talks about my work in treating people of the LGBTQ community that I would be happy to share. It's on YouTube.
Okay, and we can put that link with the podcast or whatever, so that when people are watching this, they can also click on that and watch that video. So that would be great. Yeah, thank you so much. Well, have a wonderful time in Anaheim with Andrew.
Thank you.
Enjoy the red carpet there, and you deserve it. So thanks for this interview. We appreciate you very much. And
thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Our pleasure. So we want to thank our audience today, our watchers, viewers, for sharing this with us today. And we hope that today's podcast was interesting and has given our listeners some things to think about, and maybe even pursue with Dr. Pang this way. Seventh-day Adventist Kinship is the only LGBTQIA+ affirming community for current and former Adventists. We welcome not only the Rainbow Alphabet members, but also the parents, the family members who want to learn more about how to support their loved ones, as well as the supportive allies who stand up with us and try to make a difference in our church and our world. We're all in this together. You can check us out on the web, sdakinship.org, or you can please follow us on social media. Be sure and like, follow, share all the good things there at SDA Kinship. And if you have any questions or comments, you can email me, info@sdakinship.org, and I'll be happy to answer your questions or forward the questions on as appropriately. We look forward to having you with us on the next podcast. And in between, remember that God loves you unconditionally. You're not a broken person. God loves you just as you are, and we love you as well. And we hope that you join our kinship community and just fellowship with us. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
It's been a pleasure.
Bye-bye.